Salutations everybody! Dreamforge here with another Battle Brother video, the Battle Brother Basics. This is the fourth video of the series, and today we will talk about the early game and contracts. I just booted up a new run, just a very basic bros, you know, just like the normal ones you get. So what do you do in the early game? You have a couple of goals in mind, right? First of all, you really should be able to fight enemies, and to do that, you 7 to 8 bros really should try to aim for this. If you have very strong bros, and I feel they are pretty well equipped, you can maybe take one less, but generally speaking, you want to have 7 bros. This has to do with the scaling of the game. Everything under 7 doesn't really scale that well, and everything over 8 scales differently, so you have then way more enemies to fight with. Your bros level slower because experience get separated, and I mean you have to pay and to feed them, so you just make the game even harder for you. So what I would try to do the first days, staying on this 7 bro range and then try to level them up to level 3 or 4, because level 3 or 4 is the range where you get gifted, and for some dodge, and those perks are huge power spikes, and you kind of want to get to them as fast as possible. So this is the first thing, you really want to try to aim for 7 bros. But not just any bro. You always want to try to have one ranged bro. If you have a ranged weapon or 2 and the enemy doesn't, or they have less numbers of this, they will charge you, which makes more fights easier. And this is the reason you try to aim for this, and to be honest, this bro maybe with a stack of javelins can maybe kill like 2 enemies before they even do anything. So they are very powerful in the beginning. I would try to utilize them as much as I can. What you on top of that want is you want to have 2 bros that stand on the sides. You know, let's just go there and look if we can find some bros to fight for. Oh, there's like a lot of bros. I just take the ones that are very, very cheap. Just to show off a little bit. I get to 7 actually. Okay. I would always go to the outskirts in the beginning, and they will basically attack this one the most. So you can put your bros that are a bit more vulnerable, more to the right side. At some point later on I will do this, I go to the middle. I would have 2 bros on the side with shields. I would probably have one in the back that has a net or the option to throw a net. Nets are very, very good, especially in the early games. If you get like an early raider, you can throw a net on him and waste the whole turn, or just throw a net and then start attacking him. You get +2 hit chance, and they get -2 initiative. A lot of new players don't utilize them. Those things are absolutely overpowered if you use them correctly. This is a horrible bro, by the way. Holy crap, he's bad. 2 bros with shields at the outskirts, 1 range bro, 1 DPS bro that is maybe standing here, and the rest is kinda what you like. If you can equip your bros in the beginning with swords and spears, because you see this here, spears give +2 hit chance. Even though the damage is not really good, not hitting is even less damage. If you don't have bros that have at least, I would say, 60 melee attack, and this is very rare in the beginning, I would give him spears if you can. If you can't, then, I mean, hitting with this thing and maybe stunning someone is fine. I mean, you just take what you have, but if you can choose, maybe there's like a cheap spear, then you just take it. You try, of course, getting some protection. That dude should have the best gear you have. You try to give those bros your best gear, because they will get the most hits. And they can be maybe have only one-handed weapons. Everything you have. If you look at the map, it doesn't matter if you play on a normal map that is explored or unexplored. You don't want to really fight in the north. This is something I would never do, because thralls will absolutely demolish you in the beginning. You need at least somewhat of gear. I would say lower raider gear or normal thug gear to fight against them, because with bad armor they just throw javelins at you, and this is not a fun time. You can go into the south. Like, my opinion, you start in the middle most of the time anyways. You just go where you are and you just fight as much as you can, because every day the game will scale, right? In the middle of the map is the best place, because We want to focus in the beginning on humanoids. We want to kill thugs because they not only give great experience, they drop gold or crowns, sometimes tools, ammunition and stuff like that. Food is sometimes even in there too. And the most important thing, they drop gear. And gear, oh boy, you need a lot of this. And this is something you really should keep in mind. For example, if you would have a very early fight and you find like a cool weapon here. Sadly, there isn't. But let's say you find a pike very early on. That pike can kill 3 enemies in one fight. This is a huge boost to your group. So trying to get gear in the beginning is a very good idea. And because of that, but even buying those shitty knives here is a great idea, because if you want to fight the last enemy they run most of the time anyways, then you try to dagger them down. You just go around him, you prevent him from running away. And then there is the option here, you take this is puncture, and puncturing means you completely negate the armor, and then you just hit the hit point. You really don't hit very well with this, but dropping in this game works like this. The higher the durability of this item is, the higher the chances is that this drops. Sometimes you don't get this item regardless, but you try to want to maximize that. You want to dagger down as much as you can, if this is possible. This is how you get loot. What you don't do is, you don't fight and then you buy your stuff. Things get extremely expensive at some point. So, but what you do on the side, while you're fighting, you're doing contracts, you want to find recruits that you need. You maybe lose some bros, maybe you don't have a range, you look for ranges, so you look for poachers, for example. Maybe you really need a bannerman, you don't have one. You just go from town to town and look what recruits there are, and then sometimes somebody could match your needs, then you just hire him. So this is something you look out for too in the early games. This is something I explained before. Stabbing is a big part of getting gear, so you focus on this. You should try to get knives or daggers as fast as possible. I would actually buy them. Every knife, if I don't have knives, every knife under 35 crowns I would buy if I can afford that. Making crowns is something that is very important in the beginning, so you should focus on this, you know, selling gear, repairing certain items that are just worth more. But this is something like making money. I have a video coming up that will go into detail about this, how you actually make money here and what are the best strategies. I say this because money, provisions, tools, ammunition, and medical supplies are all things I discussed in earlier videos where I talked about resources, but having sufficient of them is actually a goal in the early game. You want to stabilize. So you want to have, let's say, 100 ammunition. You want to have at least 20 to 30 medical supplies. You want to have, I would say, at least 50 tools. And I mean, provision, as long as you have enough, let's say 75 or something, say maybe 1,500 crowns or something. This is, I would say, an early game stabilization. Then you don't have to do every contract that is presented to you. You can prioritize fighting raiders, or maybe you prioritize fighting beasts because you want to have the scout, you know? This is a follower you unlock after you have 5 beast fights. If you get this done, even small setbacks, like let's say you lose 2 bros, then you have a couple of days to recover, you have enough crowns to recruit more guys, maybe buy a little bit of gear. Not every small thing breaks your company then. Because if you really think about this here is all just crowns. You get ambitions all the time, you should pick them in the beginning. Getting friendly is very good with one town. Those 8 quests are really good because you do this passively. Maybe one early beast fight could be fine. Something like this, something that you just do, you don't want to go out of your way. For the more renown, early ambitions, you know, you just get more money for the same stuff, and this is of course very, very handy, right? Now I will talk about contracts. I will go over like the ones that you will encounter in the beginning. I will talk about Lindworm contracts or fighting Hexen or whatever. This is just something, this is for late game. But before I go over contracts, I want to explain something very briefly. This cloud is kind of in a way. Give me one second. Okay, this is better. This is a T2 town. This is a T1 town. It just looks smaller than that. Only towns have contracts in the beginning. If you run here to Schwarzburg, there is no contract available. Those are just only noble contracts and you only get them later in the game. You have to fulfill ambition, but just to let you know, there are no contracts here. So going there, you can maybe buy stuff, but only in towns you get contracts. And T1 towns have, of course, less contracts available than T2 towns. Contracts come in a lot of shapes and sizes. If you have this would be absolutely perfect. Okay, this is a contract where you just have to find a location. They kind of show you where it is. This is just, you go there, you find a location, you get back. If you get lost at some point, there's like a very cool event. They tell you then, hey, you should go south from here, there's what you seek. Sometimes you have to pay for that. So very easy, very straightforward. This is just money. That's an early game contract, that is actually fine. Drive of Brigands. So there are two types of humanoid fights in the beginning. This is one. This means you have to bust a location. Those are typically a little bit harder than the ones where you just follow the tracks. I hope this is one of those. This is the perfect first contract. Like, this is really what you want. If you follow this and you have like 7 to 8 bros, you will fight 7 thugs. And the more you get of those, the better. Then we have caravan missions. You are bound to a caravan, then you go to your destination. When you're there, you get the money. If you get attacked, how often you get attacked is completely random. You have some guards with you that protect the caravan too. And while you're on the caravan, you get provisions. This is sometimes a cool trick you can do. You completely broke, but you really want to buy that weapon or that recruit, but there's a caravan mission to the next town. And instead of having to buy some food, you can just exploit it a little bit. There's like so many contracts. But again, in the beginning, you want to focus on humanoids. One mission I would absolutely avoid in the beginning. Sometimes you get into a town that is in the woods. Right? I just look for something very fast. This. Eulenkrug. So you get sometimes mission here, those are beast missions. Perfect. Beast missions, you always see this, right? If you see this is a 90% of the time a beast mission. And those are fighting spiders, direwolves, or nachos. I mean, you kind of should know how to deal with them, then they are fine, with one exception. So you don't know what is here, right? You don't know. And this is then kind of fine to do. But sometimes they say, hey, this is where you have to find a cemetery, you have to go in there and then find probably some undead. This is fine-ish in the beginning, but you don't really want to do this in the beginning because ancient undead are pretty resilient to anything that pierces. Spears and bows and crossbows, they do less damage to them, and this could be sometimes pretty grindy. You can't kill them because they don't do any damage. So if you have to do this, do this. But I would avoid this too. Sometimes those missions just say hunt down the webnecks that are around in the forest or something. I would always skip this because there's an extreme high chance that you get ambushed. And if you get ambushed by spiders in the forest at night, this can be a run ender. Your team is then scrambled around, sometimes very badly. Sometimes you have a thrower, he is very out of place, and he got jumped by 3 spiders and just dies in 1 or 2 turns. You really want to avoid those, especially if you play on Iron Man. Yeah, I mean, again, I could sit here and talk about a lot of different contracts you get later on, but I would say those are the main ones. Sometimes you get delivery missions and you see like a package. It can be good to get some money, but don't do them too much because you just get money, you don't get experience or gear, and doing this all the time will lead in that you have crowns, but then you have pretty weak bros. Okay, I would say that's it for this episode. That was contracts and early game leveling, Battle Brother basics. Hope you have a great day, whatever you do, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.